Hi guys, this is Vampire Bride.
I want to play a game.
Today I'm doing episode 2 of my Games Made from Movies or TV Shows series. Many games that are made from TV shows or movies don't hold up to the player's expectations. When you get a game that comes from a movie, you expect it to be as exciting and good as the show or movie that it's coming from. But many games fall flat. However, Saw the video game is one of the few exceptions. I plan on publishing this video a few days before Halloween, which is also when the new Saw movie came out, but because of the computer issues I was having, I was unable to get it made and put out by then. So I'm glad to finally be getting this out. The Saw movies really aren't my thing. I'm not a fan of horror and gore. I had watched the Saw movies before, but really didn't pay attention because I wanted to block out all the gory parts. While rewatching the movies to do this video, I realized that there's a lot more to the Saw movies than just a bunch of blood and gore. Saw the video game is a survival horror game released in 2009 on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the PC. I played the Xbox 360 version. You play as Detective Tapp, the head detective in the Saw movies. Jigsaw's put Detective Tapp in an old abandoned insane asylum, where he has to go through a series of tests. Along the way, there are people you have to save from Jigsaw's traps. But there are also people trying to kill you. Their goal is to kill you and end their game. It's either killed or be killed. That being said, the combat is pretty bad. The combat is pretty finicky. You're supposed to hold down left trigger and then press X or A to attack. You can also counterattack and block. During the first fight scene, it wouldn't let me do any of those things, so I ended up getting my butt kicked. You can use your fists, or you can use things you find around you, such as bats, broken mop handles, or even firearms. You use it to either attack your opponent, or in places you have to break down a weak spot in the wall to get through to the next part. At one point, I had to go out of the game and come back in just to get it to work. As Detective Tapp continues through the game, he hopes to catch a Jigsaw, but ends up learning about his origins and why he does what he does. Throughout the game, you solve puzzles, search cabinets and drawers, dead bodies, and even toilets full of needles for items that'll help you continue. And you also find audio tapes and videos that Jigsaw has left for you. Just like in the movies, they play their tape to know what to do next. As you progress, the doors that you've already been through and aren't going to need anymore seal behind you, and the doors ahead of you that you aren't meant to go through yet stay sealed. That prevents a lot of confusion and backtracking, as you can't get ahead of where you're supposed to be or go too far behind. There are so many ways to die in this game. A lot of the puzzles are timed, and you either have to get through the area and solve the puzzle before the timer runs out and bombs blow up, or you have to hurry up and do a puzzle to shut a valve so that the chemicals leaking into the room stop. If you take too long, you die from chemical inhalation. There are tripwires set throughout the whole game. If you trip them, you get your head blown off by a shotgun. They are set far enough out throughout the game that just when you stop thinking about them and being super cautious through every doorway, that's when there's going to be another one. Needless to say, I died multiple times due to those. Also, they're not all placed in doorways. Some are placed in the middle of a room, so they end up really surprising you when all of a sudden your head's blown off. In places there are broken glass where you have to walk over barefoot, and some places you have to balance across a board to get to the other side. There are health hypos you can pick up and collect along the way and use when needed when your health is running low. There are also water bottles and bandages you can pick up to use immediately to get some of your health back. Many times in games that are more about action, the little puzzles get really annoying. I actually enjoyed the puzzles in this game though. They're not too difficult, but they're challenging enough to where you feel a slight accomplishment upon completing them. The hardest part about the puzzles is many of them are timed. You have to hurry up and get the puzzle done before the bombs go off or you die from chemical inhalation. The music in this game is great. It's perfect for the genre of survival horror. It's dark and suspenseful. You do not have to have watched the movies to play this game and mostly understand what's going on. However, it does have flashbacks of things that happened in the movies and many references to the movies, such as the toilet full of needles is a reference to the second movie where Amanda gets thrown into the pit of needles. It's pretty cool to see what decisions you would make in a similar situation, except obviously without the pain and fear of what's happening next. At the end of the game, you get to choose between two doors. Go through one door and you're supposed to be able to find out the truth. Go through the other door means freedom. You get to go home, and everybody else Jigsaw's been holding in the insane asylum gets to be freed as well, meaning you saved everybody. The ending of the game depends on which door you choose. I'm just going to do a short overview of the movies because we'd be here all day if I tried to review them one by one. The first movie was a very low budget movie filmed in 18 days, mostly filmed in the same room. It got mixed reviews at first because of all the gore in it, but eventually people saw past that to the real story behind it. A lot led to Saw doing what he did. He got diagnosed with cancer and was told that it was inoperable. Also, his wife was pregnant, but the baby ended up passing away. Whenever he looked around, he saw people that didn't appreciate their lives and their families. So he set up these games, or tests, for them to go through, to try to teach them the lesson that he thinks they needed in their life, whether it be for them to care about themselves or the people around them. The people in Saw's games have to answer questions like, what would you do if your family's lives were on the line? Or your friends, or co-workers? What would you do to save yourself? He always gave them a way out, but it was never easy. He made each person that went through his game realize what they really wanted and what they really cared about. One girl named Amanda survived his tests and overcame a drug addiction. She was grateful for what Saw had put her through because of the person it made her become. Saul wanted to train her to take his place after he died, which was inevitable due to the inoperable cancer he was suffering from. But she first had to go through her own test. It's all really rounded up and seems to come to a close in Saw the Final Chapter, which makes me really curious what they did in the new one, which I have not seen yet but plan to soon. I'm really curious to see where they go with it next because it could be such a deep thing. They didn't show Amanda's story in the first one, they just showed that she was a survivor of it, meaning he could have been doing this before we know of. There could have stories from before, or even during the other games, there could have been other players. It just really interests me to see where they could go because in the end it really is such a deep series of movies. It's not just the blood and gore. There's a lesson behind all of it. Once putting aside the fact that there's going to be blood and gore in these movies, I really enjoyed them. Once I was finished with one, I wanted to pop the next one right in. The game was the same way. I didn't want to put it down once I started playing it. Saw the video game is a great example of a movie series successfully being turned into a video game.